Welcome back everybody here to College COD for 2026, of course being week number 2. We don't usually take breaks in between map number 1 and 2, we wanted to make sure everything was smooth and back running for you guys, so you can see not just our beautiful faces, but also the gameplay. I know which order you're here to see them in, and it's not the gameplay first. Akron Zips just lost map number 1, Zep. Fanshawe Fuel, they came out and shocked them on Scar.
Yeah, Fanshawe Fuel had a terrific performance. I think it was, 250 to 203. That's what I was about to guess before it came on screen. I swear to God, folks, I'm not just saying that. I had forgot, and I remember 250 to 203 was a terrific performance from the Fuel side in the end up. We talked about it going into the break. Of course, you guys probably did miss that through the technical difficulty, but Fanshawe Fuel, they were rotating far better throughout the course of the map, being on nearly every single point first, except for P5, but they were reaping so many of the rewards from P4 that, you know, a rotation to P5 wasn't as key, but even still, sometimes they're in a position to really chal at it. And I actually think on the last set of rotations they did successfully rotate over towards P5 as well, and they weren't always getting the time from that, but as they got warmer in the game and as they started to feel their shots and that KD disparity started to become more and more apparent, that's when it really started to work for them. In the end up, they were in the lead by about 70 or 80 points. Akron done a good job of pulling it back through a bit of scrap time at the end, keeping P1 mixy, but ultimately Fanshawe had done enough by that point to get the win at that point. And now as we load into the Colossus Search and Destroy, we need to see if this Akron side have what it takes to answer back, because Fanshawe, they're in full flow state right now.
Absolutely, and the thing that keeps on ringing through my mind, Zep, is that stat line we started off today with. 0-3 in Search and Destroy. The Akron Zips going into today does not bode well for them whatsoever. They need to change things, and it looks like we're already seeing some aggression coming out from Zips here in towards the A site. Early control looking pretty good, and I think for the Fanshawe Fuel as well, a little bit of information gathering process going on early in this one. They do not want to make any silly moves.
Yeah, you're kind of having a 3-to-1 split here on that defense. You're going to have Bio having the ability to go underground, but little does he know he's being watched by Sus. It doesn't matter though. Sus can watch himself go 6 feet under as Bio picks that up to make it a 3 versus 3. Fanshawe now picking up another one as well, or 3 versus 2 now, as Fanshawe try to move up on the offense. In the position to put this bomb down if they wanted to, I think, is Akron playing a little deeper. Now, though, rotating over to B. Probably the wise decision to make at this point and force the stretch from Akron.
It's the right decision to make. Isolate. Oh, Bio comes out, slides, and eviscerates Bonk. Brings us down to a 2 versus 2. That's going to delay the bomb plant as well. And they might be thinking about rotation here. Don't do it. Straight into Seif's line of sight. Has the backup now as well. Seif might not need the backup though. Switches to the pistol. And now goes down to a 1v1. Davey should be able to get the regen here before the initial. No, he doesn't. Does not make a difference. Manages to catch the last player off guard. And that's a 1v1. Really a 2 versus 2 that Fanshawe Fuel practically shouldn't have won.
Yeah, Fanshawe getting the victory there in the end up in that round, and, you know, arguably shouldn't have in the sense of, you know, they had that rotation over towards B. Granted, great pick from Bio to make it a 2 versus 2, get it a little bit more mixy, but maybe should have just committed to the plant. I think got a little bit jittery trying to push out for the kills, but ultimately feeling like they had the ability to do so. Davey 2-0 to begin with. They are slaying, so it makes sense for them to try and continue to do so, deciding not to lay it, but it'll be interesting to see now what Akron do in their offensive run.
That's a pretty good start for the Fanshawe Fuel. Snipe coming out from Bio. This is what we saw last week, I believe it was, on a Den Search and Destroy. Also a reminder, folks, you only get 2 as long as they're adhering to the GA before you die. Oh, there's the first. Takes a freebie. On the other side, though, isn't necessarily going to expect the position of Sus. Never mind, that's going to get checked out. A little bit sus, if you ask me. You'll take a trade all day long because now you've got A-site control.
And they have control, but are they going to move up for the plant? They look a little bit tentative in the positions that they're sitting, not fully sure of what they want to do and whether or not they want to commit. They are taking their time here as Fanshawe have decided to bundle up towards A, sticking together, which is the right decision to make. Akron almost looking like they want to do a full rotation around the back, and this speaks to me of a team who's not fully confident and assured in where they want to go and when. They're now going to run into each other. Fanshawe reading that transition over, but running right into the reticles of Bio, who's now on that chase with the traffic in hand as well. Akron are going to go through for that plant on B, but Bio has been key with that sniper in this round.
Yeah, for sure. Might even get the last kill here. Oh, playing his life. Slots out the last remaining player. Does not need to get this kill. Just play your life. That's the play call for Bio here. Gets out the snipe. Go on, do it to him. World Star. Bio, don't switch. Don't be boring. Get the sniper out. Get the kill, buddy. Maybe not anymore. Safety might be key. And yeah, probably best to go safety in that situation. You lose your player. You lose your teammate. Just get the 1v1 done with the Dravik.
Bio picking up 3 that round as well. Phenomenal from him. 5-1 to begin with. Again, we talked about it so much already. That Bio is a key player that this Akron side is going to be relying on throughout the course of the season. And so far, he's proving that it's worth relying on him. 5-1 to begin with. Terrific plays with that sniper. Again, as I said, still stand by it. I think some jittery play calls in terms of whether to go A or B. Not fully self-assured, but when you have Bio being able to pick up the snipes like that, you can rely on him to really just go anywhere. As now he'll be looking to try and win this round on the defense. Fanshawe looking like they're going to go aggressive towards A.
Opening nade, beautiful. Gets it before the trophy goes down. Of course, that A site now a little bit stretched further in towards statue side. Makes it more difficult to defend here. Bio on 3 in a row. Oh no! Ends up getting played out with a nade. That's the presence starting to really diminish over the A site here. You're now in a 2 versus 4. You're retaking from one particular side. This is not going to be easy.
No, a nigh on impossible challenge here for Seath, who's going to get one, but surely traded out. Absolutely is. Fanshawe with another offensive round in the bag. And I think a team, if it keeps up like this, are going to realize that they could just go more and more aggressive. Unless they run into that snipe from Bio, they are going to be able to push towards the site rather quickly and cleanly. Unless Akron are going to be able to counteract that in some shape or form, but for the moment haven't really shown any real signs of doing so. It's fascinating seeing the difference between these two sides. So tentativeness versus aggression between the two.
Yeah, it does really feel like at the moment. I mean, it's a 2-1 difference overall, right? It's negligible, but it does feel a little bit like Fanshawe fuel that the more confident and assured roster at the moment, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Aggression. Once again, starting to cam out. Davey spots the first. Also has backup from a teammate as well. Zips might feel that this lane is not open to them. They might have to brute force their way through. Here comes the double chow, and you'll take a 1-for-1 trade. If you're on the defense, even better, you'll take a 2-for-1. We're offering freebies over here at the moment, and now Zips, they're in the hole again.
All up to Bio once again here, it seems. Bio and Seath, the two who have been picking up kills for this Akron side so far, so definitely still within a chance. Is looking for that snipe. Bio, what's the timing going to be like? Did he actually spot the player in the back? I'm not sure if he did. But they're sticking together here, trying not to get too far away from each other. Need to play the trades at the very least. Bio's going to spot him now. Will he take him out now? Whether or not that peek does come through. Bio almost baited into the Chal. Has to pull back. 3 versus 1. This has been clinical defense from Fanshawe.
It's unfortunate. I don't know if that's the second time that Bio's died with that sniper rifle. I have a feeling it might be this early on. You do not want to lose the sniper rifle, and you certainly don't want to lose the sniper rifle in the hand. I mean, listen, the sniper rifle is good on the best of people, the best of players. Bio is a monster with that thing, so losing it early on in the search and destroy would not be particularly great, but that round fell apart by way of that 2-for-1 trade right at the beginning. Again, it's that conversation we talked about how assured these players have been. And for the most part, it does feel like Fanshawe fuel little bit more confident at the moment in the plays that they're making, and Zip's not really able to find a way around the fuel's search and destroy prowess. Will that change as we get in a round number 5? Aggression for the fuel has mostly been centered around A. Sustra's trying to go on a pathfinding mission at the moment, clearing a lot of space and making a lot of noise over by B when the bomb is most certainly going down on A. Ray Rap through the middle of the map has been read. You'll take a 1-for-1 trade though again. This is not the end of the world, and now Sus creating that space. There's a Rap coming through the middle of the map.
Yeah, that double flank there. Bio's going to pick up another one to be able to rotate out. Is Override getting the second? He actually does pull out, as you do have Sus though rotating around the back. Going to try and catch Bio off guard. Bio hopping up top, picking up the kill. Now 2 versus 1, all up to Bonk, who's still committed to that A. This is Akron's best chance to pull around back.
And Bonk goes for a straight re-wrap through the middle of the map. He expected that as well, so I'm kind of surprised that he actually did that. A little wrap through the middle of the map. Maybe just kind of got off on the timing as to where Zips were on that wrap through towards the A retake. But either way, it's a round for Zips, and that is a big round for them at this stage of the competition.
Absolutely, they needed it at that point, right? The difference between 4-1 and 3-2, it's monumental in the mindset, right? And Akron, you know, they want to get an S&D on the board, and they've certainly shown the capability of doing so. But again, I'm looking more towards Akron as individuals to carry them through, whereas Fanshawe, the way they've been playing the trades, the way they're playing off the back of each other, and as we talked about already, the self-assuredness and their aggression and whatever they want to do, they feel more like a unit. And as a search and destroy, you know, you will have your moments if you're like Akron, Akron to be able to kind of pull through and maybe sneak one, but consistency across the 4 is going to be key.
That's a big round for Zips. Shout out to Bio, by the way, 8-3. Phenomenal in respawns last week, turning up in Search and Destroy now, although he was no slouch in the S&D last week as well. Once again, just finding a lot of information. Zips just trying to get a feel for what Fanshawe Fuel have done here on the defense, and it is a very reserved defense at that. They're not going to be able to get this bomb down without getting a frag. Here comes the Chow through the middle of the map, Many. Is he going to recognize a player to the right? That's the big question. I think they might have just seen each other. Flanking play potentially being made by Sus as well. So Fuel getting all the pieces in position here for the collapse. And I tell you what, Sus is taking the longest possible route. Finally, nade over the top coming through. Override taking those initial shots. Again, feels like Sus is going to be the ace in the hole here for Fuel. The player in the position they're just not going to expect now. Seif with the timer on the clock, forced to try and get the bomb down. Sus will finally activate, and it's an easy peasy double for him. It's just not a lane that they were watching.
If you take too long going towards any site sitting in any area, it's not that you have control of that area. It eventually becomes a point to where you're boxed into that area, right? Fanshawe had so much time, as you saw with Sus, just to be able to work their way around, position themselves in the way that they wanted to be able to work that collapse and set themselves up in the best possible positions to win the gunfight. You either need someone on the side of Akron religiously watching that flanker spawn, or at least playing the wide angle, playing an off angle, trying to do something different, make some noise. If you sit stagnant in an area, you're going to be punished.
Just need to be a little bit more aware of how much time they were spending. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised that not a single person was watching any part of that lane, right? Nobody was watching outside of tunnel to watch the B cross towards the Godheady. No one was watching on the long flank. No one was watching behind them on statue. Just really weird in that situation. Either way, it's going to cost them. Fuel very confident now. They've spotted out that initial player. Smoke out. That's going to help them make the cross here. And Bio is actually just going to sit. He's just going to sit inside the smoke. Can he produce anything for it? Can he procure any kills? Nope, just has to dip away, but might actually draw some players in towards a potential trap, and that's exactly what happens. Davey falls by it, and now what looked like a certain taking of this bomb site isn't so certain anymore.
Again, I'm looking at Sus playing that off angle. Is he going to be able to catch Bio, or is Bio going to have the read? Huge gunfights coming through. It is Fanshawe taking down Akron, pulling back that round terrifically now. 4-3, not letting this get too far away from them. And again, we talk about it, you look like you have that B side broken, you look in control, but then, you know, you go one life down, all of a sudden you're boxed into that B point as Akron just start to wrap around you and collapse in towards that point. So that one kill can make all the difference.
That's a big round for Zips. Finally looking to kind of play what Fuel are bringing to the table, right? We talk about the aggression, the certain way that Fuel are playing. Zips read that pretty well. And Bio, fair play to him to actually getting out of that as well. The fact that he managed to get away scot-free and they walked away with the numbers for it is huge. And it seems like the same kind of strategy this time for Zips. They're going to try and get control of the B site. Davey is watching the cross with some kind of weapon. Sus out of the equation early on this one. He tries a flanking play. It is read by Seif.
Akron are answering back really well in these last couple of rounds as they try to get control of this B site, but is Davey going to cause chaos? He does but one. Are they going to commit to this plant is the big question. Again, we talk about that tentativeness. Are they self-assured enough to lock down this site and run down the clock? Or are they going to want to move somewhere? Davey going for more picks. Fanshawe setting themselves up. The double nade through. And just like that, taking too long. Seif is left in his own.
Feels like the run onomatopoeia, doesn't it? Bonk, more like explode, and there goes the last remaining player as well. What a nade from Bonk on the defense. Off the back of that opening kill from Zips, it felt like that was a surefire round for them. Davey comes through with that initial kill to retake the site, or at the very least to stop Zips from getting that bomb down. And then that double nade from Bonk. Backside control Zep. That is what completely destroys that play. Man, it just feels like we're going to keep on going back to this conversation point. The certainty, the way in which we're seeing Zips play this, they had side control. They just didn't follow through with it.
Absolutely. And it's been hard for them to get side control, right? It hasn't been as clean for them as it has been for Fanshawe when they get through, so they need to take those opportunities when they get them. And not taking it has potentially cost them this map. And could in the long run cost them this series as Fanshawe already get the first blood, trying to move towards A. This, once again, clinical, aggressive, laying that bomb down already, but the trade back leaves it 3v3.
Makes this manageable. Would have been nice if Bio could have got away with that gunfight. Now not going to be able to. Time is of the essence here. Override checking every single corner. Has Bio in tandem as well. Beautiful kill. Last remaining players here for the Fanshawe Fuel are very far separated out of this site, and all of a sudden Bonk is isolated, Bonk is decimated, and Fuel are down. Zips looking much, much better on the retake.
Terrific from Zips. Again, each kill was imperative. It was pivotal, and they picked it up. Bio, though, going 12-5, I believe, at the moment. I mean, what a KD to have in this moment, trying to drag your team through, needing to take this search and destroy on around 11, and have certainly shown the ability to do so, right? They looked a little bit down and out earlier on. They looked like they were struggling, but they've now proven they can retake a site on defense, and even though they didn't lay it on the previous offense, they've shown that they can claim a site on that offensive push. So if they're able to do so again and again, show a little bit more of that self-assuredness to get the bomb down, take those gunfights, and run the clock down in their favor, they could sneak this one at the death.
It would be insane, wouldn't it, if Zips were able to force this to their third consecutive round 11 in Search and Destroy. Of course, last week ended up losing in Game 5 by that marker. And they are once again playing caution here. I imagine Many is using that box jump up to keep an eye on the middle of the map. And there's another nade, this time by way of Many. Bye-bye, Zips. Have fun with a 2 versus 4.
Well, that's got to be a heartbreaker. Losing 4 lives from 2 nades for the Zips in these last few rounds is not going to be something to look back on fondly, especially when you've done such a good job of keeping it close. But look, Bio 12-5, Seath 5-7. Both of these players have picked up kills many a time before. Could they sneak this one? Needing to get a pick before they go anywhere near a bomb site here, you would think, is sus. Just keeping that P1 on lock. It's hard to know where to go. Is Seath going to be able to sneak up here through P1? He will get the chance, but will he get the pick?
They're garnering information here. Again, time of the essence, though, is the biggest issue, and Davey can just keep her on shoulder. Absolutely no reason to. Slide out coming through. Take a 1-for-1 trade, though. Bio now through a 1 versus 3 to salvage his Search and Destroy. Has threats on both sides and gets decimated from both angles as well. The Fuel continue the woes in Search and Destroy for the Zips as they take a 2-0 series advantage here. Things going from bad to worse for the Akron Zips.
Zips struggling here as Fanshawe are adding the fuel to the fire needed here to get through the series. They played that one incredibly well in the end up, but once again, the Akron Zips, I think, giving them a really tight game in the end up. I think Fanshawe looked more confident in the first half, but in that back half, Akron Zips, I think, really started to get to grips with this fuel side, but ultimately Fanshawe having a couple of fortunate moments, or moments of brilliance, you could argue, with those nades coming through to open a rounds up for them. But for the most part, again, that consistency across the 4 has paid off rather than the individualism and disparity across the KDs of the Zip side.
Listen, I've been accused of being a negative Nancy over the years, and for good reason. I consider myself the Simon Cowell of casting, but I'm significantly more expressive.
You can still move your forehead.
Exactly, I can still move. I can clap as well. I can actually clap effectively. That's a deep cut reference for those of you guys who don't spend their entire lives on social media. Anyway, yeah, I mean, listen, we talked about it throughout the entirety of the map, right? The only reason they're able to execute on those nades, as often as they were, I mean, was what, 2 double nades, 1 from Bonk and 1 from Many, is the fact that the Zips just consistently second-guessed themselves, were not following through on the game plan. I mean, there were a couple of times in that. I think, you know, it significantly, there was that 4 versus 3 they had where they managed to get opening blood on the B site, and they just did not follow through. That was also evident in that final round when that double nade came through. They spent so long surveying the battlefield, and there's only 90 seconds in a Search and Destroy round. It sounds like a world of time, but it just isn't, and they need to be more decisive. And I think something that if they are going to VoD review here at Colossus Search and Destroy, that is something they're going to go back to. It's a shame as well for Bio, who is 13-6. The names are flipped, by the way, if you guys haven't worked that already. 13-6 performance for Bio for the L.
Yeah, and again, I think a huge difference maker. I mean, you look at Bio, 13 kills. I mean, 1600 damage, yes, terrific. But Davey being 8 and 7 picked up 5 assists and picked up 1400 damage, so nearly the same amount of damage as Bio, who was sitting on way more kills, at least 5 if I can count my head correctly, which is again sometimes up for debate whether or not I can. So it just goes to show that the way that Fanshawe were playing, they were baiting and switching against each other fantastically. They play as a 4, as a unit, play the trades, the getting the answer back always, 2 versus 1s, always making sure that they were there for those trades, and that just being a difference maker across the 4. Akron just couldn't rely on each other. If Bio went down, you never knew if the trade was going to be there, or even if it was there, with such a powerhouse like Bio out of the picture, the Zips just didn't always have it in the locker to be able to pull the rounds through. But definitely signs of progress there for the Zips when it comes to their search and destroy play. So definitely, I think, a side who will be able to pull some search and destroy maps in future. Again, they'll have no choice but to do so if they want to go anywhere this season, but a team that I think has the building blocks of being more than capable to do so. But so far, I believe, if I remember the head-to-head records correctly, they've had a great time on Overload so far, so potentially a chance to pull a map back.
Yeah, it is worth saying something they have been successful at, as you've already pointed out, is the fact that their Overload has been pretty damn good on the whole. You know what actually is just funny? I've realized that in my notes from last week, so I actually put Overload as control in my notes, which proves that all of us, including myself, are still in a very old mindset. We're still getting used to Overload being in the map set, but I believe it was something they actually lost last season, so last week's, to Penn West. It was a 3-1 loss that they took, and that was Penn West, I think, really starting to activate, of course, after barely scraping by in that search and destroy. And one of the things I think I kind of noticed from last week again was something that we just talked about kind of carrying through in today's search and destroy, is the lack of decisiveness at times from the Zips in these key game modes. In Overload, it felt like they kind of had opportunities where maybe they could kind of get the Overload device through, the EMP device through for an Overload, and they would often kind of let those opportunities slip by. That can't happen here. You're 2-0 down, you're in the hole in this series, you gotta start clambering out here.
Yeah, no room for mistakes. And, I feel like on this map as well, an Exposure Overload, I mean, it is a map that punishes you for mistakes, right? If you're slow on the rotations, you don't pick up wave of kills, you can get punished, you can get relayed on. You need to make sure that if things are going your way, that you can press that reset button quickly. And I know this from experience. I played a rank play match with my buddies not even 5 hours ago, and we were at the mercy of this very strategy. So you got to make sure you can play that reset quickly, get that mid-map control again, and play off the lanes quickly. And at the end of the day, it's all about that slaying power and about that teamwork, and teamwork, I think, is what hits kind of the nail on the head and the alarm bells for me from the Zip side, because we've already seen the teamwork from the Fanshawe Fuel side, I think, just be a level above on the overall. If they can bring that same momentum into this map 3, we could be looking at a 3-0 series.
Yeah, I mean, those rank play lobbies, man. I don't know how you've been feeling about rank play recently. I've got to play over the last couple of days. It's been a real fun time. Although, obviously, easier for me, considering how terrible I am at the game. I'm down in, like, Platinum 1 or something to that effect. It's been a cruising time. I've been cruising my way through rank play in those lobbies. Obviously, not comparable to what we're seeing here whatsoever. Of course, these guys way, way better than us, Zep. Either way, it's been a real fun time, and I have got to play my fair share of Exposure Overload. I've really, really enjoyed the map mode combination for sure. It's been really fun to kind of play, and it does feel like a very, with how the kind of the size of Exposure, I think on the whole, it does feel like it's a map that kind of forces you to swing from one side to the other, especially as that Overload device will reset over and over again. It really does force you to kind of keep a measure of the entire map as opposed to keeping kind of to one area.
Yeah, you got to have complete control throughout, and the only way you're going to get that, especially on Exposure, I think, is just from mid-map dominance, right? You want to be able to drop down to that P5 area and pick up the EMP if it does spawn there. And, you're absolutely right. Overload, I think, has been such a fun mode to play, regardless of what people might have to say about Overload. Everyone has their opinions. I think it is a nice breath of fresh air into that third game mode, and I think it's such a breath of fresh air as well, not just for obviously watching the professionals and up at the tip top and how they adjust, but watching how, amateur players of this level adjust, and how even, as you say, ourselves going into rank play adjust to a different mode in different circumstances, right? It's nice seeing something that's a little bit more frantic, a little bit more chaotic, something that players haven't had years to nail down and are trying to perfect strategies and gameplay styles on over those initial few months. So it really leaves it as a mode that, even I think still, while we're a couple of months in, it is still relatively early on in the Black Ops 7 cycle. It's a mode that I think could be very up in the air and not really a guarantee for any team either, right? Just because you've gone on a good run doesn't mean another side hasn't and figured out a strategy to overcome the strategy that you think is the one that's going to get you through the majority of the games that you play on it. So super excited to see how this one goes when we load into it. Again, I think Exposure Overload is it's kind of the best, in my opinion, the map mode combination of Overload, but again, it's one that is incredibly punishing.
Well, it cannot be punishing for Akron Zips, of course. If you guys weren't here last week, you didn't get to see their Game 5 Round 11 loss in Search and Destroy to the Penn West Fighting Scots. Of course, that was a surprise even to us. Penn West themselves, 2-0, I believe, coming into week number 2. Just because, you know, we talk about Akron Zips as a roster that last season, 2025, CCL managed to get top 4 in Northwestern playoffs and top 16 overall in 2025. So this is a roster that has a history of success in CCL, and they're coming into this season with effectively a brand new roster, an overhaul, if you will, by, of course, the only returning player from 2025. We were asked to kind of give them some space, focus, I believe, on that interview that we were talking about previously that's available right now on the College COD YouTube channel, to focus not on what Akron was, but what it could be, potentially. And so far, the potential has not lived up to that for sure. Obviously, again, last week they went 1-1. They lost that Game 5, and this week they're currently 2-0 down to the Fuel Few themselves, who've had a phenomenal season thus far. Just a quick moment to shout out, I believe, Mama Bio in the Twitch chat, supporting her son here for the competition. We love all the mamas out there supporting their kids, and they're going to need all the support, mate. Bio's going to need every inch of support that he can get coming into this overload, because they are in the pit right now.
Yeah, and Bio's going to need that support to be able to have the ability to support his teammates as well, because he is that anchor that his team is already showing that they have to rely on if they want to drag it themselves through. And as you said, it's not been a terrific season for them so far. We're not really seeing that potential realized at the moment. But what we have seen from the Search and Destroy, and I believe in moments in the hard point, their breaking power on hard point, their ability to get some rounds on the S&D, is that, the building blocks are there. They just have to try and put them into place. They have to figure out the formula that works, but they definitely has potential. As you see there on your screen, we go to a draw, we go to the end of the map as we go for a quick reset to try and make sure that the lobby is up to standard. So we'll hopefully be getting map number 3 underway in just a couple of moments. But yeah, going back to it, Bio is a player that has to be just super relied upon. And, while he is kind of shouldering that burden quite well, you want the team to get to a position where he only needs to be relied on when needed, versus having that burden of kind of trying to be the MVP that carries them through the series. He almost wants to be able to let the reins off sometimes and let the rest of his team kind of go out to play and get the job done, and he can sit in that kind of supportive long-range AR role. But like, we didn't see that in the Search and Destroy, for example. I mean, when Bio was ever out of the picture in the Search and Destroy, the Zips looked in huge trouble.
Yeah, I think they just need somebody else to step up, right? And I think the interesting thing about this second roster is the fact that all the rest of the players are capable of it, right? We saw moments from Seif back in map number 1. I think, I go back to the map number 5, I believe, Override last week on Raid, Search and Destroy. He really stepped up to the plate, and Necro's also had a couple of crucial moments in that, I believe it was a Den overload, I want to say, off the dome. So, all of them are capable of it. I think it's just one of those things, and this is off, I think, maybe a bit of something that casters say too often, but it's doing it consistently, right? You've got players that can fire on all cylinders at any given moment. It's just managing to be consistent about it. We know that Bio's consistent. We saw it in 2025, and we saw it last week, and we're seeing it this week as well. It's just everybody else stepping up to the plate and getting that level of consistency. Of course, we've still got a long season ahead of us here for CCL 2026, so they've got a fair bit of time to figure things out. But still, what we talked about at the start of the day, right? If you have a bad start of the season, it can be kind of difficult to pick things up. So getting those things figured out right here, right now, Sep, that's all they need to do.
Absolutely. They still have that time to figure it out, but of course, the sooner they figure it out, the better. As for the second time here, we try and get into this map number 3. Hopefully there's not any issues this time around. Fingers crossed. Have I cast or cursed it? Only time will tell. But again, I think it should be a really interesting map to watch, right? We are seeing Fanshawe full steam ahead, giving it 100%, looking confident. Are they going to be able to sort of run through the Zips here at this point and have it be an easy 3-0, or are we going to be able to see the Zips fight back from this point on and sort of show that, they have fought back multiple times in this series, but are they going to lay down here and give up, or are they going to make it one hell of a series from here on in as we load into map 3?
We shall find out. Cards on the table here. The chips are down. Fuel 2-0 up in this series. Can they get a clean sweep 3-0 to kick off week number 2 of the CCL 2026? Things already starting pretty darn well here for the Fuel. Kills in their favor. They're starting to make some progress up the map here, but as many loses his teammates, going to have to try and get some repositioning going on towards that A zone.
Yeah, the Zips getting ready for that defense over at A. How are the kills coming through? 2-1 so far, but a checkerboard kill feed means they should be able to get pushed through. Easy enough capture at the end, and that's not what you want to see if you're the Zips. Barely a minute gone, already 1-0 down, as that looked a little bit too easy for Fanshawe.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised. Necros' position, I think, was the biggest surprise there, right? The fact that he kind of went behind enemy lines, maybe the call was made there. I'm going to try and make a flank happen while you guys defend towards the zone. Of course, the TK most certainly did not help, but a little small decision like that can collapse the entire defensive line, and that's exactly what happened. So Zips now down 1-0 already. The Fuel starting to get things going here. A line starting to be set up here for potential rally in towards that B overload zone. Teammates though, and now Sus has to plug a hole through the middle of the map. Can no longer do so. Overwhelmed. Flanking play from many. Could potentially try and disrupt things a little bit. Bio's having absolutely none of it. He recognizes 3 players towards the zone and might just try and get this thing over towards A. Can Sus stop this? It's a 1 versus 1. Yes, he can. Good effort, Bio, but not today, bud.
A terrific effort to try and stretch that, because, you know, Fanshawe were setting up for the collapse on that B cut as well. They were not worried. They were not rushing it. They were just waiting for all the players to show their hands, to be able to collapse on in and play the counter attack. So that stretch made Fanshawe stretch away from their positions themselves and play a little bit of the reset, but now 2 down. Fanshawe are going to be able to move directly through the middle of the map. Sus putting a few bullets across to the opposition, not getting the kills though. Going to be able to pick up 1, but Bio getting the trade, and it's going to be another bit of a reset here unless Bonk can do something on the flank, but Zip still having to play a lot of defense.
Zips really feel like they're fighting from the back foot here. 2 men down already. They get 3 men down, all now on override. We asked them to step up. Going to need to. There will be an opportunity here for players to reset. Got to be careful about potential flanking plays. Davey wants to try and put a dent in the defense, and they're going to try and hunt him down. Nicely done for Necros to do exactly that. So looks dangerous for the moment. Things will settle though. Opportunity now once again. Starting to knock. You'll take a 1-for-1 trade. Many wanted to hang around and do some damage here off the back of it, but not able to do so. Now Zips. Momentum swinging in their favor. Can they do anything on the other side? Doesn't look like it. 3-for-1 trade, all down to override. Only able to double up, and we're back towards Fuel, having the overlay device.
The first little bit of offense there for Zips not quite going their way, but at least being able to get out of their own half with that EMP. Can they string it together? Bio going huge there. Not the best start from himself, but going to be able to rotate now this through the middle of the map and again get some positional control. Necros and Bio having torrid starts for the Zips on the overall, but if they can pull up those numbers, then the Zips could be dangerous, as they look to be dangerous here with the EMP through on A to even it all up. They get it through, and we have a map on our hands.
That's what Bio was trying to do previously, right? Defensive line be damned. We are just going to force this EMP device through towards the overload zone. Exactly what happens. Beautifully done from Bio, who isn't exactly having a blazing map here, but is doing what he needs to do. Now we'll start to kick things up a little bit. 2 kills in a row. That EMP device is going to have to rewrap back towards B, and Zips playing whack-a-mole at the moment with all the different points of entry that could potentially go through. Good effort. I'm not entirely sure what the play call there was for Davey. Just try and get something done with what is a relatively powerful pistol here in this game. Necros are going to double up. Oh, no, never mind. Bonk comes down from high and is barely stopped, just 1 yard away from an overload.
That was close. Seath rescuing this one from going 2-1, as now that's picked up by Bio, who's going to play the stretch once again to rotate this out. How quickly can he get across though? Will he be met in the mid-map? Looks like he's going to try and take this down towards P5 to be met with Seath as well. The movement is great, and they're catching Fanshawe a little bit slow to action here, which means they're going to get through for the second overload. Fanshawe really slow on dealing with the stretch.
It does just feel like they're caught kind of unawares, right? But the fact that Bio has been making these routes happen over and over again, it's just so egregious. It's not something you necessarily should kind of play for. Zips will be allowed opportunity access to the EMP device. A touch should come through from Davey. I'm not sure if anybody else is going to grab it. Yes, they will. Overtime in effect. No longer are we going to see any time in that round. Just a second passes by. But I mean, yeah, the fact that Bio's managed to get 2 EMP overloads through when really he shouldn't have had either of them is frankly insane. Gets both without clearing the map. And I think that goes to show right now that if we're going into this next round, the one thing I'm focusing on if I want to get this 3-0, if I'm the Fuel, is just making sure we're plugging the gaps. So let's not leave any holes in the defense. Let's make sure that something like that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I mean, look, as you say, Fanshawe, I think on the overall they are looking a little bit stronger. But what I will say is that the Zips started off having to play a heavy defense, but playing defense with Necros and Bio having fairly poor KDs, whereas Fanshawe's are pretty consistent on the overall. But now that the Zips have pulled up their KDs, I feel like they're making their kills count for more than Fanshawe at the moment. And I think, look, the stronger side in the back half of the first half, but now going into the second half, they're going to need to keep up those numbers and extend this lead, because Fanshawe are going to go on a heavy offense, and we know what they're like when they get aggressive.
They want to try and get that aggression going right out the gate. Feels like it. First couple of kills already starting to go through. Necro's down, but has no chance but to just try and get these kills in the middle of the map. Hits the reload, ends up falling for it, but still, overload device now starting to make some progress up. Many realizes he can't just deal with the overload device itself, has to try and create some space for his team. Can only find one. Override with the immediate trade here in the middle of the map, and it's slow but steady progress for the Fuel on the whole. Trying to get that EMP device up the map. Not a lot of early opportunities being presented itself, and it's Zips who are actually doing a lot better at the moment in plugging all those holes.
Yeah, the Zips are looking strong here, but how strong are the comms looking as we go for a listening?
Top ring.
Yeah, give me a second.
Good job. He's weak front ring.
Yo, top ring, one shot. Top ring, one shot.
Dead.
Nice.
Alright, we can grab it, no?
Alright, where's the
Pop up.
Yo, we're gonna take you. Go there. Go there. Go there.
Yep. Almost I can't tell.
Now
I'll try to.
Yeah.
It's all good. There's no shell.
Flanks me mid.
I want to hear close.
Yep.
Alright, there's 2
On
P5.
That's P5. Got one.
One more.
One more P5. He's on P5, pushing up.
Dead. No,
Nice.
that's
I'm pushing third out. I'm nading over.
Go.
That's fucking good, Joe.
Open,
Pushing it up. You guys go. You guys go.
Yep. Stay mid. Stay mid. Stay mid.
Yeah, I'm staying mid. Yeah, one mid, one top,
I got it. I'm going. Watch up.
Yo, there's 3 on. One was mid. Could be pinching quick.
Last
Nice.
one there,
We're good. That kid mid was probably gonna push up.
They're both there. Actually.
He could be P3
I
now.
saw both on bomb.
Alright, yo, wait. We have to get dirt. Here. He's rapping.
Yeah.
Maybe mid.
They're short.
Yeah. I'm gonna back up.
Another one they're short. Another one they're
Yo,
short.
Yo, P1 that weak. Hitting along. You're rapping. Yo, we gotta go back. You gotta back up.
Yeah.
Try to stall.
Yep. Go there. And our spawn. On one side. Going pie. Go top pie right now.
Alright, back.
That wasn't him. That was not him.
One more. Oh, two more on.
Oh,
We're good. Side.
We're back flat.
Oh shit. Wait, never mind. Yeah, he's still there. I'm getting mad.
Where's that back flat?
It's one dirt.
Hold on.
Deep gen. Yo, we.
Oh,
One shot. That. I'm playing life. Yo, one more here. Oh, they're gonna get it.
There we.
And this Fuel side have started to poke holes in the Akron Zips here, who are keeping the comms cool, composed, and collected. But surely alarm bells here as they go from 2-1 up to 3-2 down in the time span of that listening. It is not where you want to be. Is also that A site is looking very free now for the Fanshawe Fuel to be able to get through. Necros managing to slow down the push at the very least. But this is not where you want to be if you're the Zips. They now need to try and get this offense through on A, and they're only going to have 1:50 to work with here.
Yeah, it does just feel like the Fuel at the moment taking a leaf out of Daniel J. Outwards' book. Right now you see me, now you don't, because these guys are pulling magic tricks on the Zip. Thief pulling a magic trick on Fuel, though. He will pick up a couple of kills towards the defensive side. They finally deal with him. What I was going to say was those 2 overloads that come through from the Fuel, I mean, just by way of the fact that you've got a couple of players kind of saying, hey, look over here in the middle of the map, we're going to play distraction, and while the rest of the team create space on the point. Beautifully played from the Fuel. They're going to try the exact same thing again. It's Sus that's doing it. Just trying to create some kind of distraction play. That one won't work, though.
Yeah, not working means that the Zips are going to have the chance to fly through here at B. How are the Fuel going to defend? So far, so good. Picking up the 2. They're going to run that EMP through. Are they going to be able to deal with the Zips who are putting up that defense on the cut? So far, so good here. But Bonk picking up 1 means they're going to be able to continue the run through here. It's another 2 versus 2 scenario. Bonk trying to lead the way, picking up 1. But now that EMP has actually been run through mid, but doubling back towards B. Maybe going to try and catch them here on the reverse stretch. It's actually opened up for them.
Yeah, this will be it. Gotta stop it. Goal line stop. No! Bonk will deny and actually gets that kill. You'll take a 1-for-1. Again, any players that you leave past that overload is perfect because it's going to force it to try and come on back to actually take those players down. Override does exactly that. Nice clearing the space. All of a sudden now 3 in the feed. It's going to leave Bonk isolated here on the defense. And Necros could potentially find his final player all on Bonk. Good for the first. Jumping over the top now. That's Bonk down. That should be a 4-4 here with 10 seconds left. We're going to overtime.
We're going to an overtime where Zips are already very pushed up. They'll be happy with their positions here. The Fuel side are going to have to try and lock in and get a couple of picks here. So it almost goes to a search and destroy style scenario here in this overload overtime where the Zips are trying to fight to stay in this series. Fuel, though, just 1 overload or 4 kills away from locking down this series 3-0.
And, as is customary... Is this me? We're all good. Okay, I had a freeze for a second, honestly.
Yeah, same here. I thought we had a bit of a crash in our hands.
I was like, uh-oh. It's all good. We're fine. Everything's fine. As is customary, I was going to say, with overloads, overtimes, everyone's stationary. Everyone doesn't move. God, it feels like I'm watching The Irishman. Nothing's happening. Anyway, 4-4. 1:15 on the clock. Predator missile. Coming down, cruise missile, Hellstorm missile, whatever kind of missile it is, doesn't get anything. Forces players out though, override with the double. That couldn't change things, and it absolutely will. Zips keep themselves alive. Override clutches up, and Zips will see another map.
Well done to Zips to keep themselves in that one. A huge 2-piece means they get to push their way through A and live to see another day in this series at the very least. Closer than you would have liked it to have been at the end up though, making life difficult as the Fanshawe Fuel side managed to get a couple of caps, which really called into question whether the Zips would have what it takes to pull it back, should I say. But managing to do so in the overtime, evening it up at 4 apiece with only about 13 seconds left to go, then successfully winning the overtime 5-4. Terrific performance from the Zips here, showing that overload so far is their sweet spot. But now going back into a hard point, are they going to have what it takes to drag this to a map 5? And if they do, they're going to be going into their weakest mode of the CCL season so far. So a very big uphill battle to climb here, but they've made a great first step.
Yeah, that's exactly what we needed to see. We talk about players stepping up. And actually, the interesting thing about the stat line there is that Zips are actually outslayed by a fair margin. I'm not going to do the maths off the top of my head, but the fact that every single player is negative on the roster, I think, kind of speaks volumes about just how much of a robbery that was for Zips to walk away with a dub. And I think that's kind of reflected in the way that you and I got to watch that entire game. Zep, you know, I got to go back to those 2 overloads that we saw in the first half, really. You know, not even just talking about the phenomenal clutch that we saw from the Zips with the Hellstorm missile coming down, the double there towards the end from Override. Just the fact that they were able to get away, Bio was able, I think, specifically to get away with those 2 overloads at the beginning of the game in the first half. I think that's the thing that ends up kind of taking the Fuel out. You can see, I mean, they outslayed them. It's just not efficient whatsoever. You don't lose a game and outslay, and you call it a good game.
Yeah, I mean, like, as we said, the Zips felt like they were making their kills count for more, especially when you consider that, I believe, Bio and Necros, God, struggling to get my words out there. We got there in the end up. I think they were starting like 3 and 10 and 4 and 8 together. So, I mean, had a really, really slow start. So even though those KDs, you know, they aren't phenomenal towards the end, when you take into consideration how slow the start was, they really pull those numbers back KD wise by the end up. So it just shows that once they hit their form, the Zips had what it took as a 4-man to, as I said, make those kills count, play the stretch or just bomb it forward, be there for the trade. Sort of everything that they're not in Search and Destroy, funnily enough. In Search and Destroy, they don't feel like they're there for the trades as much. They feel a bit more tentative, not as confident in their ability to cover each other all the time. I don't know why it's such a role reversal on Overload to where you always felt like they had each other's back, and it was the difference maker for them. And looking back at that Search and Destroy as a few given moments, it could have been the difference maker for them there as well. But going into a Den hardpoint now, potentially a raid Search and Destroy on the cards if they can take this map. Again, we talk about the building blocks they've shown so far in this series. They do have the ability to pull this through. It's just a question of whether or not they do.
Yeah, I mean, I feel a lot better about the Zips now, I think, moving forward in this series. Obviously, going into the Overload, we talked a little bit about how, you know, look, Search and Destroy is not their cup of tea. You know, Hardpoint, we know what to expect from them. But I think Overload, we knew that there was a chance that Zips could come back. I think now going into Hardpoint, though, obviously they've looked very strong on Hardpoint. They have now 4-1 on Hardpoint, I want to say. Obviously, this was their first loss that they've taken today. But their Hardpoint, I think, on the whole, is pretty proficient. And a big reason for that is the fact that Bio is able to slay pretty consistently, even if they end up losing said hardpoint. So look, I feel confident about Zips hardpoint. I think the thing that, you know, the classic thing that casters always say, right, is after a team has just won a map, is that they are going to have a lot of momentum going in towards the next one. And I do think that's true here for the Zips. They just needed to get a win under their belt. They were 2-0 down in the series. Now they've got some kind of momentum moving in their favor. They'll be feeling significantly more confident here moving into this Den hardpoint. I think the key for me, though, moving forward in this series is not necessarily about this Den hardpoint, and I know that's kind of us putting our first foot forward here. We need to get past the Den hardpoint to talk about a potential map number 5, but still, we do have to talk about that map number 5 if we do go the distance, because, again, I've not won a Search and Destroy. We saw a little bit as to why on that Colossus Search and Destroy. You know, there are questions, I think, to be answered here for the Zips.
Oh yeah, there are loads of questions that need answered. But again, I feel like because we were able to see so clearly why things weren't working, you're almost there, like, the answer is in front of you. We can see the answer. Surely you can see the answer too, right? Again, we go back to one of the final rounds in that Search and Destroy. They had B bomb site locked down, sort of a refusal to plant, tentativeness on the peaks rather than locking a plant and pulling back or pushing forward, meant that a nade came through for a double, which lost them the round. And we've seen in those last few rounds about 2 double nades, you know, 4 kills out of 2 nades. I mean, you take those out of the equation, potentially you're seeing them sneak that one on around 11. Those little differences were, look, it was brilliant from Fanshawe to throw those nades, again, calculated, but you could argue maybe a little bit of luck is what saw them through, even though we were seeing mistakes from the Akron side. So Akron, they have the ability, they have the answers. We even go back to the hardpoint in map 1. They made life scrappy, they made life difficult, they kept it within 10, 20, 30 points, which, you know, if you're a team fighting on the back foot, that's what you need to do up until that end point where you push forward to try and sneak over the finish line, to where you hold a clean 60 that flips it to where you're 30 points in the lead, but it's 250 to 220. And Akron, they have the ability to do it because we've seen their ability to slay out and have that slay out count for something in the Overload. The pieces are there. Can they put them together in the back half of this series?
The pieces are there. Zips 2-1 down. They are on the board. Now they have to make the board their own. And a confident Den hardpoint victory would be one way to do it for sure. Of course, this is a map that we didn't see on broadcast, but it was played between Zips and the Yellow Jackets back in week number 1. It was a confident victory for the Zips, 250-97. On the other side, though, the Fuel themselves have been confident here. They beat York University 250-186 back in week number 1. Although, again, you know, apples and oranges, pears, all the fruits and vegetable that you can imagine, it's difficult to compare. Obviously, Yellow Jackets and York are 2 very different teams as well. But still, bottom line here, we're expecting big things from Zips, and when you see everybody firing on all cylinders once again, you know, there are mistakes that fuel not a perfect team, mistakes being made for sure. Zips can exploit them as we get into this map. The state of play at the moment, of course, folks, 2-1 down for Zips. You gotta win this, and you have to win that Search and Destroy. That is a bridge, a very large and long bridge that they're gonna have to cross when they come to it. For now, let's see whether or not they can get this done here on Hardpoint on Den. Big first hardpoint for Zips to try and make a statement early on.
And so far, none other than Bio picking up the first blood as well. Override with another. Fanshawe answered back with 2 of their own, though. But it is the Zips on the initial time. But for how long is another push coming through from Fanshawe? You do have Bonk as well, who's going to be playing over on that wide side, eventually coming through with the kill. A clean few kills means that Fanshawe get back on the point themselves. So far, still securing those P2 spawns. But it looks like Override is going to go on that journey to P2.
That's the right play call to make. Try and flip those spawns out early on, especially as you've lost 3 down now. All of a sudden, Override's play here becomes all the more important, and he can only deliver on 1. I feel like a little bit premature there, trying to get some kills on the cut towards P2. So now Override down. Fuel will brace for impact. Zips looking to make an impact on this initial push. First kill already starting to come through. Override trying to play his life here. Maybe a distraction plate. No, never mind. Down he goes. One by one they go through. And oh, Bio puts enough shots in at the very least the rest of the team can deliver. But while that's happening, the spawns will flip. In Zip's favor, you could argue. Necros in towards the hard point. Needs to try and create an opening for his team. His life needs to be played because the rest of the team can't get past. Pinstripe field comes through. Maybe that's opened things up, but there's a couple of kills come through in favor of Bonk. It's not to be. Zips cannot get back in towards the hill.
No, and Fanshawe are doing a great job of holding from the front here, which is usually not a great sign if a team is still able to slay out from the front and hold on to a P2, as they have all these entryways on lock. Clean 4 down. Zips fought hard for the spawns, but they done little with it, as Fanshawe are going to pull away with a pretty nice lead going into P2 unless they can have any say on the scrap, which none other than Bio is going to be able to do so to, again, just lessen this gap, something they were so good at in that map 1, never letting the game get too far away from them in the early stages. They just at the very least need to keep up that level of form.
Beautiful start for Fuel. Beautiful start for Bonk as well. 7-1 performance for him. 4 in a row coming in towards the next hard point. Has a lot to do though. Couple players hitting the mid cut. Oh, Bonk. Left and right. Nah, not good night just yet. Oh, for Bonk maybe. Override comes through for the double. That maybe open the door here. Manny going to get shut down, and very quickly, Zips have managed to find their way through towards the time. Necro is trying to take control of Dojo. That would have attained a significant amount more control, but in a failure to do so, and a failure to get the rest of the kill feed for Zips, just as quickly as they get control, they almost let it.
Yeah, we're already seeing a difference in that. A lot of the time when we're seeing the key moments in this kill feed, it's usually a clean 4 for Fanshawe. We literally just see, whereas for the Zips, even when they get time, it's either at the very most a 3 or a checkerboarded kill feed. They're never getting that final nail in the coffin to truly reap the rewards of their efforts. Still not too much of a difference in this one, but Fanshawe already well rotated. Something that we consistently seen from them in map 1 is ringing true once again with this map control, as they clean out that spawn. They have that control, and Akron have to send 2 through mid.
Akron, can they do it? I'm going to be aware of the player towards the backline. Never mind, doesn't matter. Bonk can't clean with the first kill and get shut out before he gets a second, so needs his teammates to pick up the slack where he left off. Fortunately, they do exactly that. Kills now starting to come through for the Fuel here. The lead, 50 points and growing. That deficit, not great for Zips by any stretch of the imagination. They're looking to try and brute force their way through the front for the back 20 seconds. Seif and Bio will combine for 3. Davey, last one left up towards the back line. He's being bullied out as well. Bio ensures that he does not have anything to say. And that's an important chunk of scrap time here. 10 to 15 seconds. The Zips, they really needed that because this lead could have got out of hand.
Yeah, already it could have been done for them if they didn't pick that up. But again, we're seeing KD disparities start to show up. You've got 15 and 7, 12 and 10 for Fanshawe at the top end. Meanwhile, the bottom end for Akron, 4 and 11, 4 and 13. Again, you're looking at Bio being that player trying to drag the Akron side through the mud. Override not too far behind, but still negative on the KD. Whereas you have Davey, who loves the hard points, it seems. Double positive and counting here. Excelling in this slaying out role. Picking up another with the pistol to go on a 3 spree as he now goes to sit on this P1, tries to make it 4, has a little bit of help I think from the teammate there to do so, eventually gets taken out. But you know, when you're seeing such a difference between the top end of one team and the bottom end of another team, that difference in the scoreline at this stage in the game starts to make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, this feels like different gravy at the moment, doesn't it? Zips getting outclassed at the moment. Necro's 5 and 16. Seif 5 and 13. These are players that we talked about really needed to step up to the plate, and it feels like they're so far off it at the moment. Fuel in control of the next hard point. Seif will look to flip these spawns out, and Fuel know it's important to take him out. That's exactly why they go and flood him out of the hard point. But towards the front, that's going to weaken things just a little bit. Davey now going to have to work his way back on through. Nade that might have landed, at the very least unsettles a player. Bonk trying to follow up, and he gets shut down. Little bit individual here on the re-approach from Fuel.
Alright, I'm liking what I'm seeing from Zips here, getting a couple of kills, holding this point again from the front. It seems to be the side at the front having a bit more success, but the difference is this time around is that you're having the pinch coming through, which worked a treat for Fanshawe. Bonk coming around the back, making life incredibly difficult, and Fanshawe Fuel side break on in. All things considered, with there being such a big difference in, you know, the performance of these players as 4s across the board, there's only about 1 hill in the difference. If we see Seif and Necros pick up these KDs even for just 1 hill, we could see this scoreline go right back to even against Stevens. They just need to pull it out of the bag now before it is too late. 155 to 95 it's going to be going into this P3. But the Zips have rotated. Can they make the rotation count?
They are there. They got broken pretty quickly last time around. This time they're actually going to be dealt with. Sus, potential flanking play is shut down. Bio also ready for another one that will be coming his way in the way of many. Backline, Bio's just spotted him out, and he's just going to back one up, has the help of Necros, and there's 2 for 1. Necros takes that all day long, can now turn around and help his teammates on the other side. The setup from Zips here is actually pretty. It's nice. They've got the early control. First 30 is theirs.
This is as clean as it's ever been, and it's probably ever going to get for them, so they need to make every second of this one count as they shorten that gap more and more. They know where to watch. They know where Fanshawe are coming from. They should have the timings down to a T. They just have to make sure they're not at the receiving end of a moment of brilliance. But Fanshawe eventually breaking in here, but only for about 10 seconds to scrap. It is not the end of the world, but we are seeing the Zip spawn out now. Can they use this to their advantage and pinch back in on the back spawn, or are they going to be down and out of this point? Bio fighting for every bit of time he can get towards P4, but only able to get a tiny amount. Sus going huge with the 3, and is that potentially a nail in the coffin here for this Zip side? Only time will tell. They still have the spawn, still have an opportunity to break in, unless we're going to see someone on the side of Fanshawe break on through the back. I'm looking at Manny here, maybe going to be able to do so, but the Zips are hanging on.
Zips in control. 3 players, they are flooding the hard point. They realize that stacking is their best chance of getting the dub here. Seif, keep an eye on weapons. Another player watching the fence across as well. Now overloaded here. Many comes through for the doubles. AV, Necros for 2 on 4 in a row. He's going to keep this still alive. The Zips, a little bit more to do here. Has help on the crossfire now as well. Necros for the jump out. Can't get it done. Bonk will double up, but should immediately get traded here. Lovely little pinch play coming through from Seif and Bio. That's going to ascertain the last 7 seconds for Zips. And what was a phenomenal, dominant game for the Fuel has suddenly become a very competitive one.
And again, I'll take you back to the KDs. Have a look, right? Davey still doing great, slowed down just a little bit, but see, the Necros have more than picked up the numbers here at Necros, getting 1 minute in Hill. You know, we talk about consistency. You know, top players can't keep the numbers consistent throughout, but a lot of players at this level, the bottom players won't be consistently at that level either. They'll pick up the numbers, they'll even the KDs out, and now that the Zips have done so, they've put themselves back within touching distance. But so far, Fanshawe once again doing a good job of P1 here and have the P2 spawns. So a lot left still to do for the Zip sides, but they've given themselves the opportunity. They just need to take it. 20 seconds left on P1. They look like they're going to hold majority of this scrap. Now how are the rotations going to play in?
That's the question for me, because in previous hard points and previous rotations, Zips have, I think, done a really good job at getting players behind enemy lines, getting players through to flip those spawns on out. Now they're looking to overwhelm Many in towards rotation. Many holding for now. No longer the case. Sus now looking to try and do some damage here. Gets caught out on rotation. Does Davey get caught out as well? Davey, yes he does! Buy through for the double. And that's the answer to our question. Zips, they touch first, and they win a crucial one-on-one on the backline for the spawns.
Wow, the Zips at the death here through none other than Bio. I feel like none other than Bio was probably his full name. That's what I've been calling him throughout the entire of the series. But he is carrying this side now, 31 and 18 on that 5 spree. 1 minute in Hill and counting. Desperately trying to stay alive here. The pinch eventually coming on in, but we are seeing this map 4 hardpoint going right down to the wires. Manny picks up 2. Fanshawe trying to answer back. He actually picked up 3, I believe. But now the Zips spawning out. Are they going to play for this scrap time? It looks like they are, but they got to think about those rotations again. What got them so much time back in this game was successful P3 rotations the last time around.
Yeah, that's the big thing for me. How much do you want to tip the scales in the favor of this hard point, right? Because you just said it. Last time around, it was a perfect hold on the next hard point for the Zips. It was probably the best we've seen them look the entirety of this hard point thus far, and they are not going to get that set up easily this time again. Bonk. Huge. Control of the dojo. How much damage can he do? Even that 1 versus 1 is going to take Seif out of turn. Seif now needs to wait for the rest of his team. I don't think he's going to. He's going to fly. 1-for-1 trade. Bio towards the hard point. He doubles up, and Zips, they're in towards the time.
That was a make or break from the Zip side, as Bio picking up the 3 on the 3 spree now, trying to hang on. Only 5 seconds needed. Bio tries to pick up 1. He gets dropped by Davey, who's going to try for one last pinch in through with this side. Needs to pick up this kill and does. Fanshawe hanging on just about.
Hanging on by a thread. 4 points away. Zips cannot get in towards his time. Davey Gets the kill in the middle of the map. Zips now just going to set back for the reset towards the next hard point. They know there is no point hitting full send for a 4 seconds of scrap time, and yet they lose the first 2 versus 4 in rotation. Becomes a 2 versus 3, becomes a 2 versus 2, becomes a 2 versus 1, becomes a 2 versus 0! Many kills going his way, and Fuel have control of the Roto.
Oh no, and they're all on streaks well, 6, 2, and 3 respectively. A perfect wave of kills for Fanshawe. Will it be enough to get them over the line? A couple of seconds left, right down to the wire, just 2 points in it, but Fanshawe, they have done enough, and they are going to take map number 4 to take the series 3-1, 250 to 246, almost as close as it could be. It got very ropey for them at the end. The Zips made life very difficult, but Fanshawe successfully rotating the P4, getting a crucial wave of kills, was the nail in the coffin that they needed to close out this series.
You know what? At least it wasn't indomitable. It looked that way for an extended period of time. We'll show you guys here on the graph to show you just how much of a dominant game it was. 121 to 49 at one point in that hard point, 141 to 70 in the middle of the game. It didn't look like Zips had much to say, but then we saw that P2 to P3 to P4 back to back to back hard point where they found themselves in the conversation. I don't think this is not accurate, right? My brain is.
I think they're missing a couple of hard points there.
Yeah,
I think, but
yeah, for sure. Okay, no, I was going to say, I was like, they did not finish 166, but I mean, for the most part, it's fairly accurate in terms of I think where they managed to make that comeback, because as we were saying, I mean, they were down by such a large margin there that it really did feel like the Zips were going to take that at one point.
yeah, I mean, like, I really loved what I seen from the Zips in the back half of that. And can we just talk about Bio once again? I mean, 34 and 24, massive commiserations to the Zip side on the overall, because look, you know, we've analysed this from the word go, and we've said we've seen a lot of the problems that Zip have, and what we've seen from their stats so far in the head-to-head for this season are once again ringing true. But, you know, on paper, the scorelines are pretty close for the most part, right? You have a 40 to 50 point game in map 1. You have a search and destroy that I believe was 6 to 4, and then an overload that they managed to take, and then a hard point that realistically should have been theirs, as we now have the updated graphic. And I mean, as close as it could be, just a different wave of kills, a different moment throughout. We're seeing a completely different series in our hands.
I mean, just look at that, man. A 40, 50 point deficit. It felt like it wasn't even a conversation at one point in that hard point. It felt totally different, really, I think, to what we saw. You know, we go back towards map number 1 and what was like a really 1 or 2 rotations to set the difference, where Fuel actually started to gain a foothold in that first hard point. This one, you know, it did feel like early on Fuel were just in total control, and Zips obviously woke up in that second half. Beautifully done for Fuel. A beautiful end to that game, and a massive shout out to Many as well, because he got what I don't think really was even play of the game. I think that's play of the entire damn series for Many, coming out there and picking up, I think it was 3 kills, maybe even the entire 4. The fact they were able to get that done is sensational. Here's how a look at the entire series has played out then, as the Fanshawe Fuel take a 3-1 series over the Akron Zips. Zips only taking that exposure overload, and really, I think, you know, I question, should they even got that?
Yeah, look, I mean, the Zips, they definitely managed to sneak that one in the end up, right? And they deservedly sneaked it. But, you know, I look at their performance in the rest of this series, right? And look, I think we're correct in saying that Fanshawe on the overall, they look like the better team, and they obviously won, so they were the better team. But there's so many moments where on the first hard point, they looked the much stronger team. It was the same on Search and Destroy. Zips were kind of often fighting that losing battle as that underdog from behind, trying to sneak a map in the series rather than, you know, appearing to be a side who was going to come through, dominate, and really put the pressure on Fanshawe. The only time we ever see them like really actually put that pressure on was what we've just seen in that map 4. But, I mean, in saying that, again, you look at it on paper, the score lines, it wasn't that bad, and you know, the games were close, and they were able to do that with, again, such a disparity in the KDs across the board. You know, where we'll give credit to Fanshawe, you know, across the board you had all 4 players really pulling their weight. The Zips were able to keep that scoreline that close, with a lot of the time having players either underperforming or not being consistent throughout the map. So once again, you look at that and you see, well, if we can fix that, if we can have all 4 players pulling up, not even just like strong KDs, but just consistent KDs throughout the map, where they're not starting out going 3 and 10, 4 and 12, but even if they finish, I don't know, 28 and 20 or 28 and 25, but that's been a consistency as the 4 throughout the map, they may have just that numbers advantage to be able to turn these close results to go in their favor rather than not. And then from there, you start pulling series in your way and you start garnering that momentum to really perfect your game.
All right, well, we've got questions about Zips at the moment. That's yet another loss for them as the Fuel take it in indomitable fashion. 3-1 victory. Congrats to the boys over at Fanshawe. But that was just one of 3 series here in CCL we've got going tonight. We've got another one coming up here in just a moment as the Shockers take on the Rangers. Don't go far, folks, because on the other side of the break, we've got more action from CCL.